Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CoStar News Hotels podcast. I am news editor Sean McCracken here, as I am every month, to talk about the Asia Pacific region with STR's Jesper Palmqvist. And today we have special guest from Sydney, Australia, Executive Chairman of Trilogy Hotels Tony Ryan. Tony, obviously, Trilogy is a third-party management platform down there in Sydney. What else do we need to know about you right off the bat?
Yeah, maybe back a little bit in time. I was a lawyer for quite some years, a hospitality lawyer, acting for both owners and operators across Asia, everywhere from Tokyo to Tasmania. Then I passed all that up after living in Asia for quite some time, including spending a lot of time with Jesper in Singapore. I then joined JLL and ran their global M&A business at JLL, which was a focus on cross-border portfolios and hotel management companies. From about 2014 onwards, there was a lot of activity in that space. So I did that based in Singapore and London up until COVID. Returned to Australia and with a group of industry colleagues set up a white label management company, very much in the model of the US, Aimbridge and Pyramids and those. We don't own hotels. We don't own brands. All we do is just operate hotels on behalf of owners.
Absolutely.
And under a franchise or not, whichever works.
From Tokyo to Tasmania is one of my favorite taglines I've ever heard.
Is that the name of your book, Tony? Is that the name of your book? It's gotta be.
That would be a tame title for my book, I think.
It would actually, and the content. Don't judge a book by its cover. But the only thing they're showing that Tony really leaves out, that he is also unanimously and objectively, he is the supreme and best moderator, MC, and any conference and event person in the wide region, arguably globally.
Wow.
He is the most sought after, wanted man for decades. He just, no, absolutely.
Well,
I've had the pleasure of joining him a couple of times on stage, but Tony is the king.
Well, I suddenly feel more pressure at facilitating this conversation.
Coming from Jesper, anybody who's seen him on stage, he is dynamic. So he's really the George Clooney of the APAC conference business. So.
I have that thought every time I see his face.
Yeah.
This radio face? Oh, great.
So, Jesper, before we get into how beautiful you are, let's talk about how beautiful things are across Asia Pacific. What's the trends for this month?
Absolutely, yeah. We closed January, and I'll have a quick look into February. APAC, from January, it looks good on surface level because we closed almost 5% up in RevPAR, and that's driven mainly by occupancy. Obviously, very diverse. Maldives, about 3% both occupancy and ADR. So Maldives having a good peak season. Again, talks to that stability. People are worried with all these new resorts, but it's doing okay. Singapore spread around the 45 days, obviously with the Chinese New Year kind of moving a couple of weeks. It's okay. It's okay. It looks all right. A little bit of rate pressure, but not too bad. The massive growth that we're seeing is Vietnam, right? So I want to definitely ask a question about that later, what your views are, because supply chain just come down. But think about January. We had 68% occupancy, and some, will sniff at that, but it was 57 last year. So Vietnam's still going massively, 10 points up, and almost 10% up in ADR and Ho Chi Minh. So Vietnam is just absolutely, this January and into February, doing everything right. It's just growing still with all this new supply that had opened. Bangkok had a bit of rate pressure that we've seen before, but Phuket, we said already last year, should not worry over peak season. It's low season that is concerned, so it's still flat. So people still come there to the islands, at least during peak season. Did spend a little bit of time looking at Japan, because big news, of course, the Chinese decline on flights, canceling. It really depends on where. National number kind of looks flat. It's okay. So, and then you got to look luxury or not. There's so much high-end and international operators coming in. So I think Tokyo, the headline is high-end hit, right? That's where, from a Tokyo perspective. In the last 30 days, it opened up a 10 percentage point gap in occupancy. So that's pretty steep. ADR a little bit, but not as much. And if you look at April, comps will be tough because that's last year when you had that holiday period as well. So April's that's going to be a very interesting and a tough forecasting on that second quarter. When you look outside luxury, very similar to 25. So this is a luxury hit for Tokyo. Osaka, which had more of that Chinese business, it's across all classes, but luxury most. Occupancy is like 15-20% down yesterday in the first half. So huge hit there. Kyoto, a little bit as well, but not as bad as Osaka. So across those three. And then you have Hokkaido, where peak was just under 90% occupancy for these 2 months last year in luxury, and it's lower this year. It's about 5-6%, but not as bad. So, if you summarize that, high-end hit in Tokyo and Osaka across everywhere. Quick wrap-up of the other things. India makes sense. Occupancy is slightly down. Rates are growing. Still good success story. People bringing brands in. China, domestically, Beijing is holding up okay-ish. Which is kind of one of those engines to look for. We'll have to see February once it closes the holidays and everything, but rates, a little bit of pressure, but not too bad. So stable-ish. Hong Kong, I don't know, we both Tony and I, we love Hong Kong, great city. And Japan, January was 87% occupancy. And that's 90% in peak year 2018. So pretty strong sign, and rates are good too. So people are bullish about Hong Kong. But the big driver is Tony's part of the world, right? Auckland is finally turning around. Occupancy was up almost 50% January, so finally seeing that in New Zealand. And Australia, that stability, right? Melbourne and Sydney, 6% more rates in January. And I don't know, this stability, Tony, around states and territories and capitals, it's kind of obvious, but that stability that everyone loves for investment. Why? I mean, I get why you started this business there, but how? I mean, so we've seen this before, and it doesn't matter if I look in cowboy country, like parts of Queensland, whatever. It's just everywhere. Why is it so stable everywhere?
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm back in Australia is because the football teams I follow, which no doubt we will come to at a later point.
Yeah.
But, where we all share the same colours there. We've got. Look, I mean, the principal markets from when I was in the broking business is Japan, Australia, and Singapore. They're very strong markets. There's an underlying issue from a structural point of view around that, is because you've got a really strong legal system there. Contracts get enforced, management agreements get protected, your bills get paid. So I think you sort of start with that as a good place to do business from an investment point of view. If we and we're seeing that. That's the first premise when someone looks at Australia. Then we move to the operating performance. Sydney's done an 82% occupancy, and it is really driving. I think then there was some interesting confidence given to us by some major events that we've had, Ed Sheeran, et cetera. They really do pump up the GM such that they feel confident to go into the market with a bit of a swagger. You've got and that's probably the strongest market. You've got Melbourne, which did suffer from some oversupply, which is really stabilising and coming good. You've got Perth, which is really out of the blocks. 11, 12, 13% RevPAR growth, and then you've got Brisbane, which again is doing extremely well, and it's in the shadow of an Olympic position, and so that often disrupts the market a little bit in terms of the normal supply-demand dynamics, because there's greater expectations, but that market's doing really well as well. I think, look, we're just looking at a really strong RevPAR position across the market. There's the projections are coming out. We're talking 5 to 7% really across the board RevPAR uplift, and I think that, when I was just in Alice in Los Angeles last week, the US is lucky to be -1, and the absolute optimists are talking about a +1% RevPAR growth. So these markets,
we're
Asia
dreary over here these days.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, I guess if we're comparing the US and Australia, the thing I'll ask is, because I talked to plenty of people who were in your shoes at Alice specifically.
Yep.
And the hotel operators over here are really hyper-focused on bottom line right now, right?
Yeah.
Because top line static, cost creeping up. Where do you feel like the bottom line story is for Australian hotels?
Yeah. That was the constant refrain in Alice was AI and
Yeah,
P&L repair.
yeah.
That were the two messages that I got out of Alice. And there's a lot of focus on it. So where do we sit in terms of that bottom line? Look, we come in when we take over the management of a hotel, of an existing hotel, and maybe we'll change the brand, maybe we won't. And we focus on two things. We come in, it's a complete analysis of distribution and payroll costs. They're the two big quick movers that we can do in terms of turning a hotel around. And I think that's probably the areas that we're focused on. Obviously, labor. At COVID, we did learn to be a lot leaner. We maybe fell off a little bit in terms of those
Yeah,
disciplines, but we're
it's easy
certainly
to unlearn, right?
easy to unlearn, and we're aggressively getting back into that business. And we all know that the major cost in a hotel is labor, and so rostering and all that hard slog is really where the turnaround can happen. So we're really seeing that. So when we come in, that's our first KPI. Where are we with labor? And I'm not talking about sacking labor. I'm just talking about a better allocation of labor. And with that, we are assisted by various AI and other integrated models. We can take our HR system and do that a lot better. Look, we don't have in the US. We don't have a lot of those demarcation issues that you have in particularly union hotels. We have a little bit more flexibility in terms of that workplace. And I think probably the second bit is distribution. Again, these are both hard work areas where you've got to drive, sort out your segmentation and drive hard on the cheapest channel. It's lazy management to just leave that alone, and then you go knocking on doors in the neighborhood to chase business. So I think there's not really a silver bullet. I think it's hard work, and with the right tools, driving down those two principal areas.
To loop in the American football analogy, it's
Yeah,
blocking and tackling, right? The
yeah,
fundamentals.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very much so.
Way to
But
kill the conversation, right? Talk about American football.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But when you
yeah.
so you've now Trilogy's been up and running now for
Just over 2 years. So we have 20 hotels that we manage. Nearly 3,500 rooms, and everywhere from Pullman's. We just signed, soon signed Hilton. So sort of generally they're everywhere from mid-scale to upper upscale in terms of the brands that we have on and the hotels that we manage.
is this harder? Is this harder than you thought it would be?
That's a really interesting question.
Because everybody wants to get into hotel operations right now. It's
Yeah.
the easiest part of the pie, right?
I thought that was legal. I thought that was legal.
No, legal's a lot. So I was out there negotiating thousands of management agreements over the years. I have learned so much more about the hotel business in 2 years. Despite a stint at Cornell, when you really drill down into hotel operations, it's hard work. But it's absolutely fascinating. They've got so many dials that you can manipulate to drive a really fantastic financial outcome. And the opportunity to get a lift in profit for a hotel, that opportunity is much greater for us than in a shopping center or other, traditional property asset classes. I see it as kind of cyclical. I think we want to be in the hard business, the bit that involves human beings. As everything else gets commoditized, it's the human element, well supported by AI, that is going to be the difference in securing customers and keeping them. So I think if we do that and we do that really well, then we'll get a premium for it.
Do you find that obviously white label third-party operators are nothing new.
Yeah.
Do you find the global brands are more comfortable with kind of the international component of, handing off operations?
Sure. So I think as you look at that, I mean, it's obviously so well established in the US.
Yeah.
I spent a fair bit of time in London, and that's how I got into this business, because I was helping US third parties expand into Europe. There. So, but Australia and Asia Pacific, it really is. It's at quite an early stage, and so a lot of time is spent educating the market. I think you raise a really interesting issue, which is why how the brands have changed in their view of
Yeah.
the role of a third party and franchise. And I think that is if I look back and Yasser asked me a question as to why now and why not 5 years ago. And I might say 10 years ago, I even thought about doing this. But I think one of the principal reasons there is that the brands have got globally, internationally now, a view that they really should be in the distribution and franchise
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Their profitability margin on that business is, 80%, and their profit margin on their hotel management business is anywhere between 25 and 30%. That's pretty much reflected in how the stock market values the most franchise company versus the least franchise company as well. And you'll see different multiples on the stock market for that. I think, and probably that is really evidenced by Accor's recent appointment of a global franchise person in Paris, who has, she's got very extensive experience in the franchise business for Marriott and Starwood, and her idea is to drive Accor into that. Well, sorry, drive a certain part of the Accor business, which is their PME central business, into franchising. So the view globally from all head offices is we want to get into this business, we want to franchise. We'll reserve management for certain circumstances. Maybe it's owner dependent, geography dependent, or positioning dependent. But other than that, we need to roll it out. And so, therefore, in I won't say immature markets, but in markets that haven't experienced this, they really are looking for capable players that they are happy to manage the hotels in whatever brand they see fit. So,
and it seems like it would. Looking at your portfolio too, there's been more in recent years, even over here, comfort from the brand level on handing off those kind of luxury high-end properties that they have held to for themselves for the longest time. But I mean, you guys have a Fairmont. Like those are opportunities that maybe third party.
It's actually, to be accurate, it's not actually a formal Fairmont. It was called a Fairmont. It's actually an M Gallery hotel. But I mean, we've got, we're in the throes of a good pitch with LXR. We've got luxury collection with Marriott. We're Pullman's, Kimptons. The brands are comfortable with the team that we've assembled, that we can deliver for them, maintaining the brand standards and keeping the owners happy.
Well, it does certainly align with like that movement also when PE was going into, we say, the less experienced countries and finding portfolios and change that. There's still so much efficiency still left. Like it looks like it, even in markets, because we keep saying at a macro level, Australia, it's very mature, everything. It's not true everywhere, right? There's still a lot of opportunity because you've grown this in Australia. I mean, you're looking outside. Everywhere?
Looking very keen into New Zealand, which is our friends across the ditch, as we say. And
that'd be the logical jump, right?
It is a logical jump. We sort of speak the same language. So that and we've looked at a range of opportunities there. We've just got to find the right one, but we're knocking on all the doors we can over there. That makes sense. From New Zealand, you can pretty much do South Pacific as well, and that's just picking up major markets like Fiji. That's where the traditional route has been. And then and Singapore is another place that is a little more challenging. But we've got to nail Australia first in terms of we're at 20 hotels. We want to be at 40, 50 in a relatively short period of time, and then take it up from there, with building the right support team around that. And obviously the one that is of interest to everybody would be Japan. So we've spent a bit of time up in Japan looking at that. As its own
and resort versus city, that doesn't matter to you.
Doesn't matter to us at all. We have a resort which has got 2 swimming pools, a golf course, huge gym, elite training facilities, an ice skating rink, a train. All of that is it's all good fun, and spas and the rest of it. We like to have a good mix of resort and interesting enough, from the Australian point of view, when you mention regional, there is the new projects out there are some really interesting resort properties in regional Australia who are supporting some good rates in their feasibilities.
So you're looking in Wagga. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
So while we're grilling you about your company, I need to know the real burning question, which is why Trilogy? Do you just love Star Wars or what?
No. And it came from, you've got to search for a name for these things, and you sit up, and even a couple of bottles with Jasper didn't really deliver the outcome. But no, we looked at what are our stakeholders. The stakeholders are owners, our guests, and our team members. That's the three people that we look after. And so the idea is there's three things that we're focused on. And if we just keep the focus on those three, and obviously the community and the environment as well, that's just given, that's the landscape we work in. But that's how Trilogy came up. Now there happened to be three founders, but that really wasn't it. So
well, we can bake it all into the mythos, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, Jesper, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up, and quick hat tip to our friends at CBRE. And obviously a few months ago, we had Steve Carroll on this exact podcast to talk about investment across Asia Pacific. They recently released some data about intent to invest, which is massively up in Japan. What do you make of that? Do you think that that's a persistent trend, or is it, are we kind of hitting the point of overpricing for a hot market?
No, and I think, Tony, you'd agree to this. Like when you look at the people that are going in across Japan, the fact that it started, maybe some high-end stuff in Tokyo, Kyoto, the fact that people are looking everywhere.
Yeah.
They're looking in a second, third-tier cities in Japan, but a lot of that is, financial fundamentals, right?
Yeah, and I think it's the upside. I mean, you look at KKR; they effectively bought that portfolio of mid-scale, very much low mid-scale hotels. And I think there's the pricing on that luxury stuff is way up there, no question. I think what you're seeing in Japan is a couple of things all occurring at the one time. You're seeing the move away from fixed leases to variable leases, or fixed and with a significant variable component, to hotel management agreements, to franchising. I think that whole fixed lease was embedded into Japan when I'm up there when I was as a lawyer for Marriott trying to do stuff. It was really hard work, but so as that and that really arose because the fixed lease didn't survive COVID. We realized that the covenant was illusory. And that was a bit of the same here, and particularly in Europe as well, similar issues. And so there's a recognition that where does it really get you in severe circumstances? Your tenant will disappear, and you then end up without an operator of your hotel. So I think that's a change that is happening, which for a lot of international owners, that's the landscape that they're more used to, which is a hotel management agreement or a franchise agreement. And so after you start to do that, you start to really unlock the value that is in a particular hotel that has been sitting there for a long period of time on a fixed lease, not being well looked after in terms of CapEx. And so there's a real turnaround opportunity there in terms of both repositioning and changing the fundamental business model. And operationally, you go to those fabulous hotels, and it's not 1, 2, or 3 generations, but sometimes it's 4 generations of the same family working at that.
Yeah, no, it's true.
That doesn't lead to efficiencies.
No, exactly, and it's so. I think overall the investment, what Steve was saying back then, it still holds up as well. That it's not just Japan. I mean, people have a decent expectations about 26. Because there's a lot of people still who own across asset classes that are looking to diversify that portfolio. They still like the hotels, and it's more about picking the right ones now. And there's still both single assets and portfolios. I mean, there's large deals that are being discussed. Everything from, say, Blackstone, New World, and whatever is happening in the market. Right? Some people need cash more than others.
Yeah,
I will note one of the interesting points from this CBRE data that was released earlier this month is that China remains a net seller, and obviously the tension between China and Japan has been brought up from a performance data standpoint, but maybe it's an opportunity for buyers out there if Chinese owners are still selling.
Yeah. Oh, listen, across asset classes, the carnage in Shanghai in the last year in office space, right? Look at the people losing a lot of points on assets that they bought a few years ago. But at the same time, which is, obviously what Blackstone is looking at as well, and other players. Is this the bottom? Is this a good place to go in now? I mean, not for me to say, but it definitely, after over 18 months of continued decline in asset value, then, a lot of people were still looking to get out to sell and just make sure that they sell above the debt and move on. But there's a lot of opportunity to buy, and I think that crosses borders a little bit easier than politics. Yes.
Yeah, you do have the issues of at least you have to defend fundamentally what is the real estate interest that you're acquiring if you were to acquire in China, and how close are you to the expiry of the existing lease term?
Yes.
Introduces a level of uncertainty there that I think is proper to worry about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to happier topics. Well, I guess happy is in the eye of the beholder, because I do want to spare both Jesper and our audience and Tony another spiel about how much I love the Swedish hockey team and Rasmus Dahlin. But I will say, Jesper, do you have any comments about your Olympic hockey performance of your homeland?
I love the Olympics, and it hurts that we went out the same way, both of the ladies and the men.
And I think it's worth pointing out, that was a really rough day for you, getting up really early to watch the men lose and going to sleep very late watching the women lose.
We grew into the tournament and everything, and I didn't give us too much shot against the US when we got into it, but then so close, and it's hockey, man, so it matters a bit more than curling to me. You got to be honest. But
I will say,
it was brutal.
Clearly, the best defense in this hockey tournament was the Swedish. Like, clearly the best defensive team.
Moving on, Sean.
I will fixate on this longer, but I'm free to fixate on it because my team is still playing and we'll get to play for a medal. But
That's
anyway,
right.
On a happier topic we can all enjoy, we are on the eve of the dawn of the Charlie Curnow era in Sydney. How is everyone feeling right now?
Yeah, how do you feel, Tony? I mean, the preseason, we don't have the amount of injuries we had last year. Preseason,
okay,
so now
we're talking.
There's been a pregame. There was the 4 goals. I mean, what do you
I didn't realize you share the Swans with everybody on this podcast, do you?
We talk about this regularly. This is half Sydney Swans podcast on a monthly basis.
And the opening game, that's a big controversy, right? Everything.
Something I don't often like to talk about is my parentage, but I I would have to say that I have to explain that I was born in a town called Wagga Wagga. That's it. You say the name twice because it's just so good. But it's halfway between Sydney and Melbourne, and it was the nursery for a whole lot of exclusive nursery for Swans players that came through the system. So I have been a long-time supporter and therefore wear the scars of the tournament. We are. This is the year. It's we've got.
I'm knocking on wood as you speak.
Yeah. I love this. This is
and
good.
Isaac, as you know, is not only a magnificent footballer, but he's the best looking man in Australia. So we've got everything. We've got everything.
We really do. And I mean, the only like downside right now is Max King getting an injury there. Like, one of my nephews played with him when they were going through the Swans Academy. Just a fantastic player. What a blow for such a young guy. But he needs to get back. Like, but for the finals.
Yeah. I wish God didn't invent an ACL. Because I wish we'd had a better design feature, because the amount of players that get knocked out with ACL
is very
injuries.
True.
You'd feel like by 2026 they'd be able to artificially replace them, right, and just put them back out the next day. But medical science is still not caught up.
I agree. ACL, it's just, I mean, how hard can it be? These days I have titanium in my neck, right? So I mean, why couldn't I use that and fix that up? Right? But I like this. This is good news. So Tony, you are well more versed. I'm only like a 15-year convert into this sport, and short a couple of years here. So when you say this is the year, oh man, I'm psyched. I'm pumped.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't think Brisbane can do it again. So
No.
My gosh,
Good.
these
Let's
are like
call out Matthew there.
these are famous last words at this point.
Yeah. They can't. They're already fighting each other. It's very disrupted. They're all. That's okay.
Great.
They're gonna fall apart.
All right. So no fear of hot takes here this month. Jesper, Tony, any final words of wisdom for our listeners?
Look, I mean, this is focused on Asia Pacific. I think it pretty much if you scan the globe, whether you're looking at investment, you're looking at new builds, you're looking at growing a brand, like branded operators. I mean, the Asia Pacific region is just on fire in terms of all of that. The biggest construction pipeline we've got is in India. I think it's 300,000 branded rooms, and within 4 years, that's going to be 600,000 branded rooms. Doubling it, maybe. It's 150 moves around. So I think the India story, which we haven't really touched on, is something that has really kicked off. Good RevPARs. I mean, every of the branded operators want to get in there incredibly aggressively and have vamped up their resources. So pretty exciting place. Yeah, you're right with Vietnam in terms of it as well. But there's still, as I said, something as well known as third party management isn't really up into Asia. If I just look at that little bit, I mean, we know we can deliver a better experience for the guest and also, but more importantly, a better profit for the owner. A better return, which drives better values for his hotel. There are those sorts of things that just haven't been adopted. So often I think there are these pots of opportunity that come at you in a sort of surprising way. That different parts of the world have developed differently, and if you can sort of educate and bring the right model that's responsive to the culture that you're selling to, I think there's some really interesting opportunities, and we certainly know that Asia is certainly rich in different cultures. So that's probably a bit of a take, having spent a lot of time up here, and really love it.
World domination for I was going to say Trinity, but that's my daughter's college. A Trilogy. Very good. Good. Yeah, really appreciate you coming here today, Tony, and liking us.
I think it's been a great conversation. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations to CoStar.
Hello, I'm Luke Haynes, People Newsletter Editor CoStar News, and the host of Top Credentials, a monthly podcast exploring the colourful careers of those working at the top of UK commercial real estate. In the episodes, we discover the valuable lessons influencing the daily decision-making of property sector leaders, and hear about the aspects of their job that make it a little easier to get out of bed each morning. We'll also ask for their views on the latest news and policies shaping our constantly evolving industry, and even get them to share a famous quote or song title they think defines their career or the profession. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the CoStar News Hotels podcast was recorded on February 19th, 2026, and edited by me, Sean McCracken. Visit costar.com/hotel news for more and find all of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.